You ever notice how people only start paying attention when something's on fire? The house has to be burning before they get out of the chair. The sirens have to scream before they cover their ears. But by then it's already too late. Funny how silence never seems to be enough warning, even when it's screaming louder than a bomb. They won't tell you when the shift happens. No fireworks, no parade. It doesn't come with a headline. Just one day, the world looks a little dimmer. Your reflection feels a little off. And the voice in your head isn't whispering anymore, it's begging. See, when something divine speaks your name, it doesn't sound like thunder. It feels like a tremor inside your chest, a pressure, like the universe is holding its breath, waiting for you to stop pretending you didn't hear it. Most people don't recognize it. Most people ignore it. They call it death. Most people ignore it. They call it overthinking. They call it a phase. They dose it, drown it, distract it. But deep down, they know. You know. Something is trying to wake you up. Not for a show, not for a sermon, but for war. The war inside you, the one between who you became to survive and who you were meant to be. That's the one God's been watching. That's the one He finally spoke your name into. And you want to know what's funny. People think when God calls your name, everything gets easier. The clouds part, the bills pay themselves, and suddenly you walk with favor. No. When God speaks your name, everything gets louder. The distractions turn into demons. The temptations become tactical. The very second your purpose is activated, so is the resistance. Because this isn't about comfort. It's about confrontation. You can't be who you were called to be and still be who makes them comfortable. You can be who you were called to be and still be who makes them comfortable. You can be who you were called to be and still be who makes them comfortable. So now you're standing at the edge, that moment between the calling and the climb, and it's cold. You've got people depending on the old version of you, the quiet one, the polite one, the manageable one. And yet something deep in your bones is done being obedient to fear, done nodding along to a story that wasn't written for you, done waiting for a permission slip to walk in the truth you already know, but you're scared. Of course you are, because no one ever told you that clarity feels like chaos at first. That when you finally decide to answer the call, the very ground you're standing on will start to shake. That's the test. That's the cost. You want peace? You're going to have to earn it in blood. Not theirs, yours. The death of your ego, the burial of your excuses, the crucifixion of your pride. The moment God speaks your name, you become a target. Not because you're weak, but because you're now visible. You're now identified. And the things that could ignore you when you were sleeping, now they start to swarm. The toxic friendships, the temptations, the self-doubt, all of it intensifies. Not because you're failing, but because you're finally moving. And here's the twist. God doesn't speak your name for applause, nor does He tempt at expansion. Achilles, you're not doing this. God doesn't speak your name for applause, or He does it to disturb the system, your system, the one you built to protect yourself. the one that kept you small and agreeable. He speaks your name to make you unrecognizable to your past, to make the old keys stop fitting the doors you used to run to make comfort taste bitter and stagnation itch like a wound. See, the moment your name is spoken by something divine, you can't unhear it. You can pretend, you can delay, you can even sabotage, but you can't unknow, and that's where the pain starts. Not from the world, but from you. The wrestling match between your calling and your conditioning, the holy violence of becoming, that's what most people run from. Not the cost, but the confrontation with who they've allowed themselves to become. Because once you know you're called, nothing mediocre satisfies. You start craving truth, not validation. You stop chasing crowds and start chasing clarity. You lose taste for cheap highs and start hungering for purpose. But it comes at a price. Isolation, misunderstanding, rejection. People will say you've changed, and they'll be right. You've started listening, not to them, not even to yourself, but to the echo of your name in a place too high for human hands to reach. And once that sound hits you, it doesn't stop. It just keeps ringing in your chest like a siren, calling you, pressing you, shaping you, not into something new, but into who you were before the world told you to shrink, before the pain, before the lie, before the mask. You ever notice how people pray for a sign, beg for purpose, ask the universe or God or fate or whatever name they whisper at night for direction? But when it finally shows up, they flinch. It's almost funny. They spend years asking to be seen, to be chosen, to matter. But when the moment hits, when the spotlight of destiny swings around and lands right on them, they squint, they panic, and they pretend not to see it. Because the truth, they never actually prepared to be found. That's the thing nobody talks about. Being chosen sounds nice. Sounds like gold and angels and open doors. But in reality, it's pressure. It's scrutiny. It's responsibility. It's waking up one day and realizing you're not allowed to sleepwalk through life anymore. No more blending in. No more excuses. The universe just put your name in bold, and now everything you do echoes louder. Being chosen means the rules change. You don't get to be casual with your potential anymore. You don't get to ignore that gut feeling telling you what you're doing isn't it. The world wants you to stay silent, to stay average, to stay in your lane. But God's got the audacity to mark you different, to carve something eternal into your skin, while everyone else is painting on masks. And that kind of weight, that's not a blessing, it's a burden, a beautiful, brutal burden. But here's what's worse. Most people don't run from being ignored. They run from being seen. Because when you're seen, you're expected to show up. You're expected to carry something, and people are afraid they're not enough, that they'll mess it up, that they'll be exposed as a fraud. So instead of walking into the fire and becoming who they were meant to be, they play small. They dilute themselves until there's nothing left but a version of them that doesn't offend anyone, doesn't shine too bright, doesn't demand too much. And then they wonder why they feel empty. Let me break it to you. Being chosen doesn't mean you're special in the way you think. It doesn't mean you're better. It means you're responsible. For vision, for legacy, for truth. It means the weight of what's inside you is too loud to ignore. And that weight will break you if you try to carry it the old way. That's why the old you has to die. The weak one, the distracted one, the one addicted to validation and approval. Gone. There's no room for that version in this next chapter. You'll lose people. Oh yeah, that's guaranteed. The more you align with your assignment, the more you'll scare the ones who were only comfortable with your confusion. The moment you start walking in clarity, you become a mirror. And people don't like mirrors. They'd rather you stay small so they can feel big. They'd rather you stay lost so they can keep pretending they're found. But this isn't about them, is it? This is about that internal pull that won't shut up. That tug in your soul that's been there since before you had language for it. That strange knowing, you've always felt it, that you were meant for something, that something was watching you, waiting. And now that it's here, you're realizing it's not just a whisper, it's a command, a demand, and it won't let you rest. You'll start to feel allergic to anything fake. Shallow talk will irritate you. Mediocrity will bore you. Mediocrity will bore you. Spaces that once made you feel safe will suddenly feel suffocating. Anything that isn't aligned with your calling. Your body knows. Your heart knows. Even your mistakes start working in your favor because purpose overrides logic. People will ask what's changed. You'll look the same, sound the same, but something deeper shifted. You stopped waiting to be rescued. You stopped apologizing for your fire. You realized you don't need a seat at their table when you were born to build your own. You stopped running from your reflection and started becoming it. The real you. The one that was buried under fear, shame, rejection. But now you're standing up. Maybe trembling, maybe bruised, maybe unsure, but standing. And the universe doesn't respond to perfection. It responds to alignment, to boldness, to action. So when it sees you flawed, scared, messy, but willing, it moves, it opens, it speaks. Because being chosen isn't about being ready. It's about being ready. But without you, life will be just bleed, bleed, bleed. And once you say yes, truly say yes, there's no going back. The old world burns, the old rules vanish, and all that's left is a path you were always meant to walk. No matter how many times you tried to talk yourself out of it. People love the idea of change until they're the ones that have to change. Everyone cheers for transformation as long as it's happening to someone else. They repost quotes about growth, talk endlessly about evolution until growth knocks on their own door. Then suddenly, the music stops. Because real change isn't glamorous. It's not some soft sunrise or a well-lit montage. No. It's demolition. It's chaos. It's standing knee-deep in your own excuses while your comfort zone burns behind you. And here's where it gets fun. You say you want more. You ask for a breakthrough. You pray for it, cry for it. But do you even know what you're really asking for? You're asking to be ripped apart, to be shown who you really are without the costume. You're asking the truth to walk in and punch the illusion in the face. You're asking for every fake friendship, every lazy habit, every soul-sucking environment to collapse. And the thing about collapse, it doesn't ask for your permission. It just happens. Fast, loud, and personal. See, when the old version of you starts dying, it doesn't go quietly. It screams. It begs. It makes you nostalgic for a past that was actually killing you. It'll whisper lies like, maybe it wasn't so bad. Maybe I should go back. But there is no back. There's just the illusion of back. And people get stuck there, looping in memories that don't serve them, playing reruns of relationships that expired long ago, bargaining with ghosts. Because the truth is, people aren't addicted to pain. They're addicted to the familiar, even if the familiar is toxic. Predictable misery is still easier to manage than unpredictable growth. You can schedule pain. Growth? Not so much. Growth has no calendar. It ambushes. It demands. And it doesn't leave until the old you is in ashes. You want to talk about purpose? Purpose will haunt you. It'll stalk you in quiet moments. It'll ruin things that used to entertain you. It'll make you restless in rooms where you used to feel important. You'll try to drown it out with distractions, social media, substances, circles of people, social media. You'll try to drown it out with distractions, social media, substances, surface-level conversations, but it keeps louder each time because it knows. It knows what you're hiding. It knows what you were born with. It knows who you could be if you just stopped lying to yourself. But that's the game, isn't it? Self-deception. The greatest prison is built from your own silence. You know what you need to do. You've known for a while. But knowledge without action is self-inflicted suffering. And no one's coming to save you from it. You know what you need to do. You know, you know, you know, you know, you know. You know, not God, not fate, not your friends. You're the problem, and you're the solution. Wrap your head around that. There's a moment, somewhere in the madness, when clarity hits like a punch to the chest. It doesn't come wrapped in poetry. It comes in the middle of a breakdown, when your life finally stops pretending, when the noise fades and you see what's really been going on, who you really are, what you've really been going on, who you really are, what you've really been going on, who you really are, what you've really been going on, who you really are. And suddenly you realize all the excuses were just fear in costume. All the waiting was just procrastination with better branding. People will tell you to take your time, heal slowly, be gentle. And sure, that has its place. But sometimes what you need isn't softness, it's confrontation. Sometimes you need to look in the mirror and say, we're not doing this anymore. No sugarcoating, no spiritual bypassing, just truth, raw, unfiltered, undeniable. And in that space, in that brutally honest confrontation, the new you starts forming. Not because you found some magical step-by-step program, but because you finally got tired of your own nonsense. You finally stopped begging the world to understand you and decided to understand yourself. And that shift, that's the birth of something dangerous, something unshakable. Because once you taste that kind of self-ownership, you can't go back to being the victim of your own life. People won't recognize you anymore. And that's the point. You're not supposed to be recognizable. You're supposed to evolve. You're supposed to destroy the version of you that was built for their approval and become someone built for your purpose. And that process, it's not clean. It's not polite. It's not social media friendly. It's messy, lonely, relentless, but necessary. You ever notice how silence terrifies people? Not because there's nothing, but because there's everything. In silence, there's no one left to blame. No noise to cover the truth, just you and whatever you've been hiding from. That's where it gets interesting. Because the minute things go quiet, your mind starts screaming. Your regrets start pacing. And the mask, well, it starts to slip. You can lie to the world all day. You can perform, smile, clap on cue, but silence doesn't clap. It watches, it waits, and then it whispers things like, "This isn't who you are. You're faking it. You're not okay." And most people, they run right back to the noise, the chaos, the screens, anything but that uncomfortable truth sitting in the stillness, breathing down their neck like a shadow that knows your real name. But here's the thing, that silence, that's where the shift happens. That's where the transformation begins. When you finally get sick enough of your own voice echoing excuses in your head, when you're tired of hearing yourself say, maybe next week, maybe after this, maybe when I'm ready. The silence doesn't care of your schedule. It demands the now. It strips you of your distractions and asks, what are you going to do about it? That's the moment most people miss, the power in the pause. Because we've been taught that if we're not doing, we're dying. If we're not moving, we're failing. But in reality, the most dangerous people, the most unshakable ones, are forged in silence. That's where they meet themselves. That's where the real war begins. Not out there, but in here. You ever sit in a room alone and feel like you're being watched? You ever sit in a room and feel like you're being watched? That's not paranoia. That's the version of you you've buried. Watching, waiting, furious. The version of you that remembers who you were before they told you who to be. Before the world handed you a costume and said, play nice. That version, it's not gone. It's caged. And silence is the key in the lock. But people don't want keys. They want distractions. They want applause for survival. They want sympathy instead of strategy, and I get it. It's easier to be broken with an audience than to heal in solitude. There's a tension in struggle. But healing? That's private. That's lonely. That's where you bleed without the likes. That's where you start choosing yourself. And that's when everything around you starts calling you crazy. Because the moment you stop playing the game, the crowd turns. You stop posting pain and start building peace. People get confused. You stop answering every call and suddenly you're different. No, you're just done pretending. And that silence, it starts to become your power. It sharpens you, refines you, makes you see just how loud the lies were. And there's no going back after that. Once the volume drops and you hear your own thoughts clearly, you realize how long you've been hypnotized, not by evil, but by comfort. and comfort the second you realize how long you've been hypnotized, not by evil, but by comfort. And comfort is not what you think it means. You think it means. You think, well, that's the most dangerous drug there is. It doesn't kill you fast. It puts you to sleep. It makes you forget. It makes you justify staying the same. But silence, it kicks the door in. It throws water on your dreams and says, wake up. And when you wake up, you start remembering the promises you made to yourself, the fire you buried, the dreams you traded for approval. You start looking at your circle, your job, your habits, and you start questioning everything, not out of insecurity, but out of clarity. You're no longer fooled by noise. You're listening now. And what you hear is purpose, pulling, dragging, whispering, let it all go. And that's the crossroads. Stay comfortable or stay honest. Most won't choose the latter. Too quiet, too raw, too real. But for the few who do, they come back different. Not louder, not flashier, quieter, sharper, unapologetically precise. Because once you've sat in silence with yourself and survived the noise of your own truth, no one else's voice gets to control you again.